Thank you, Lee. Well, it was Friday, and we were tired, and we were ready to go home. My boss and I had been in New York City all week negotiating terms of some money that we wanted our company to borrow. There had been a week of sleeping in a strange bed in the Ritz-Carlton. There were many long business dinners at fancy restaurants whose name I couldn't pronounce at the time, and I certainly can't remember now. But honestly, we were working real hard, and it had been a long, tiring week. So on that Friday morning, as our DC-10 lifted off from LaGuardia, we were ready to go home. Now, I am still a kid at heart, and I was then too. I love looking out the window at the ground getting farther and farther away, in this case, Gotham City. And then the plane shuddered slightly, and since I was looking out the window, I could tell that it had leveled off. In a moment or two, Captain Slickmouth came over the PA system. Good morning, folks. You may have noticed that we just experienced a compressor stall backfire. We're up here in the cockpit evaluating the situation. We'll be right back to you, so sit back and enjoy your flight. I wondered, will this compressor stall backfire make us late getting into Dallas? I wondered, but then my wondering was interrupted by a flight attendant, Miss Straight Talk Tongue. And she said matter-of-factly, I understand some of you didn't hear the captain's announcement. We just lost our number 3 engine. So that's what a compressor stall backfire means. That we're hurtling through inner space with just 2 of the 3 engines that God and aeronautical engineers intended for one of the biggest airplanes ever built. Oh my gosh, what's going to happen? You see how the tone changed with the tone change in the tone of voice? How the outlook on the situation changed? Believe it or not, the same thing applies to today's gospel. When the apostles beseeched Jesus, increase our faith, I always interpreted that they were having difficulty overcoming some challenge in their ministry. And I always interpreted Jesus' response to be one of mild criticism, a chastisement. If you had the faith the size of a teeny tiny mustard seed, you could uproot enormous trees and plant them in an ocean or lake, to say nothing of the meager challenges to your ministry. Think that, you miserable apostles. That sounds like our cynical flight attendant. We've lost the number 3 engine. Face the facts. But what if Jesus were actually saying, if you have the faith the size of a mustard seed, which you obviously do, you can do anything. Now, there's a change in tone if there ever was one. What encouragement. You can do anything with the faith that you have, small as it may be. Now, I don't think we need an alert here, a spoiler alert. The other night, Carol and I saw the movie Sully, which some of you are going to see today. Now, even if you haven't seen the movie, you probably recall the miraculous landing of that U.S. Airbus, another very large airplane, on the Hudson River. I hope you already knew that, Virginia, so I didn't spoil it. When a flock of birds disabled the plane. Like Sully, our pilot lost an engine. Fortunately, he only lost 1 of 3, and Sully lost 2 of 2. Like Sully, our pilot headed back toward the airport. Unlike Sully, our pilot landed routinely at that airport. It happened to be JFK, rather than in the frigid waters of the Hudson River. Like Sully, our pilot didn't lose 1 passenger. All credit goes to those pilots and their crews. All credit goes to the emergency responders, and on that airport runway at JFK, and also in the cold waters. But what about prayer? What credit goes to the faith of the people involved in those incidents? There's no evidence that faith had anything to do with the results of those engine failures. No evidence at all, except the outcomes. Now I know I was praying faithfully for deliverance as our big bird descended on the runway. By the way, that was the first, and I pray the last time I landed on a runway lined with fire trucks and ambulances. No doubt the people of faith on U.S. Air 1549 were praying like mad. What happened? We were both saved. And why? I'm a believer in answers to prayer. God endowed my flight crew of my plane, and Sully and his, with prodigious skills to respond to emergencies. God endowed air traffic personnel, whether people of faith or not, with the ability to manage professionally extreme situations. God endowed emergency responders with courage and skill to be God's agents in real and potential crises. God answered our prayer through those blessed folks. Prayers and faith answered. I'm not worried about the prayers that I've offered that seem to have been answered or not. That's God's business, not mine. What worries me are the prayers that I haven't offered. There's no way you and I can pray for everything in the world, even though sometimes our prayers to the people look like it. There's no way that you and I can pray for everything in our sphere of being that needs prayer. But there are things that we can and should be responsible for praying for. What if someone you know is suffering from, you can fill in the blank? We know that God is always pouring God's loving, healing power into that person. But what if our lack of prayer and faith fail to open that person up to God's healing initiative? What if our lack of prayer and faith fail to inspire the leaders in our community to break open intractable barriers to injustice and peace? What if? What if? Jesus assures us that we do have faith the size of mustard seeds. Let's open ourselves up to the mighty power of that tiny faith. To paraphrase the late Oral Roberts, let's expect not a miracle, but results from the exercise of our tiny, powerful faith. When we do that, we can say, we have done only what we ought to have done, and we expect a miracle.